The story begins with the main protagonist watching the release of a new online game. His name is Lee Yun, and he wasn't born rich. He is the breadwinner of his family, so he has no money to play around with. He has some change in his pocket, but it's not nearly enough to buy the game. As he gets home, he greets his grandmother, who is really sick at this moment. He shows her that he got his ID card. He is now old enough to apply for a job. He is now an adult. He can now earn twice as much as before. His grandmother is surprised that a card matters so much these days. He asks his grandmother where his little sister is. She tells him that she's with some gang members outside again. She asks him to protect her at any cost, but he's already doing the best he can. He's going to look for a job tomorrow, but he's going to spend the night playing games. His online name is Weed for some reason, and he starts up an old game. He used to play this game for years. He sometimes played 200 hours without sleep. He wonders how much he could sell his account for. Player profiles are auctioned all the time, so he tries it as well. He just wants a little pocket money for it, so he requests the auction. His character reached the maximum level, and all his stats are maxed out. He was one of the best players in the game, so the whole community is shocked that his account is being auctioned. His account also contained a lot of rare items. They think that Lee Young is crazy for selling something like this, but the starting bid is already at 100,000 won, which is a lot more than Lee Young had hoped for. Meanwhile, at the office of the creators of the game, they are shocked that the best character is actually being sold. They were already aware of this player, so they decide to bid on it as well. It will be a good promotion if the price ends up being very high, so they end up bidding 20 times higher than the highest bid. They realize that if this sells for a high price, it will have more effect than an expensive TV advertisement, so they figure out new ways to get the price as high as possible. They send a message to all their VIP players. These are the people who spend the most on their game, so they are most likely the richest ones playing. It will become a pride battle of the rich, and will most likely generate millions. The richest players all get a notification. This causes the price to skyrocket. This is the only form of pay to win in this game, and to max out an account requires a lot of dedication. People who didn't even play the game wanted the account as well. The bidding is almost at 600 million won. That is over 450,000 US dollars. But the auction isn't even over yet. Lee Young's phone goes off and he wakes up. He wonders who's calling him this early in the morning. He picks up and it's the secretary of the media, Yoon Na-hee. She wants to tell him the price of the final bid. She announces that the money has already been transferred to his account. She wants to confirm the amount with him. He is surprised that the auction is already over. He hoped to get a little over $200, which is 300,000 won. She tells him that his account has been sold for more than 3 billion won. He hangs up on her. He thinks that people are prank calling him, so he wants to check for himself how much he made. He starts up his computer and is absolutely shocked by the final bid. But he still doesn't believe it. It's over 3 billion won. That's over $2.3 million. He asks himself if this is really happening. He's trying to comprehend how much money he has now. He could now easily take care of his sick grandmother and change his life. They have always been poor and in debt, but they don't have to live with leaks in the roof anymore. He already fantasizes how much food he could eat without having to worry about money. But the most important thing for him is taking care of his family. So the first thing he does is visiting his grandmother in the hospital. He tells her the good news, that they don't have to worry about money anymore. He shows her how much he made from the game and how he's going to use his money. He tells her that they should be happy from now on. His grandmother is starting to get tears of joy. But suddenly someone walks in the hospital room. It's someone who heard the news about Lee Yun. He asks him if something good happened to him. Lee Yun recognizes the person's face, but he hasn't seen them in a long time. These people came after him his whole life, since he is in debt and owes them money. It all started when he was a kid. His father borrowed 100 million won. He wasn't able to pay it back, so he asked his son to do it. As the kind person he is, he couldn't decline. He asks them why they are here, but it's pretty obvious. They want him to pay back everything in one go since he earned this much money. They know about Lee Yun's auction, so he has to. He asks them how much money he owes them. He claims that he will pay it back right now. The financier is still mocking him, but he tells him that he needs to pay back 3 billion won. He is confused since his father didn't borrow that much money. He threats to call the cops, but the cops are on the financer's side, since they are very corrupt. The financer's brother is the real boss. He tells his little brother to stop messing around. He apologizes to his big brother and explains to Lee Yoon that he has to pay this much because of the high interest rate. He cannot believe that he is already bankrupt. The financer asks him to hand over the money right now, but he refuses and asks what happens if he doesn't pay. The financer will then come tomorrow again, and the day after that, and the interest and the overall debt will be higher. The financer also threats that he will hurt his sister if he doesn't pay, so he has no choice to pay them all the money back right now. They will sell his sister if he doesn't pay, and they really have the power to do so. Lee Yun decides to pay, and he doesn't want to see them ever again. He is handed his receipt and his 90 million won change. He is surprised that they knew the exact number that he made. He is so angry that he wants to say something to them. He claims that he will get them back one day. He paid back everything he owed the financer, but he will repay all the pain and suffering that was done to him by the financer and his family. But the little brother isn't having that. He tells them that he shouldn't be cocky because of the money he made. His big brother reminds him that they are in a hospital and that he should not cause a scene here. The little brother tells Lee Young that he has a poisonous aura, and the big brother wants to make a bet with Lee Young. If Lee Young is able to make that much money again in 5 years, he will treat him like his little brother. He is challenging Lee Young by stating that it's not possible for him. Lee Young takes this challenge, not because he wants to make friends with them, but to prove them wrong. He will be dedicated to this mission. Since he's taking care of his family, he needs to make as much money as possible. He is certain that if he made it once, he can make it again. He decides to wake up early. He wants to improve himself and the way he lives, so he starts his day with a good breakfast. He tries to become as strong as possible to prepare for his next game. He also tries to get as smart as possible. This comes in handy if he needs to solve anything in the game. He states that people are playing games for fun, but that is not the case for him. He prepares himself in a strategic way. He tries to learn as much as possible about virtual reality and games in general. He wants to become the best at the game that was introduced at the beginning. He had some money left because of the auction, so he decides to buy the new game and become the best at it. A car almost runs him over, but he is able to dodge it, which proves how much he improved physically. He is relieved that he didn't make any medical bills, since he was very close getting hit by the car. He states that he is almost ready to enter the game, but his only objective is to make money by playing it. It's an investment, since he needed to get the console, which was very expensive, but it was quickly installed, and he is confident in his gaming skills. After the installation, he immediately starts up the console. He reads the manual, which no one ever does, but he is entering the #1 virtual reality game and he does not want to come unprepared. The console and the installation costed him 10 million won. Lee Yun wears the helmet and starts the game. The system is being checked before he can enter, but it's all set to go. He is now in the main menu of the virtual reality console. He tries to access the game, and his helmet starts to glow. As he's being connected to the game, he feels a rush forward. He sees bright lights, but before he knows it, he's in the game. Before he could enter a royal road, he had to choose a name, and he decided to call himself Reed again. The connection is being made between the game and his brain. He skips the intro since it will cost him electricity. He wants to keep the bill as low as possible since he has no income right now. He chooses to spawn at the Rosam Kingdom. He spawns in a market, and it's very obvious that this is his first virtual reality game. He's testing his body by kicking in the air. People are looking at him as if he is crazy. His clothes are also giving away that this is his first game. Some people are mocking his clothes, so he tries to leave quickly, since he is ashamed of himself now. He already planned out where he will be going. He walks a little bit through the kingdom and arrives at the basic training school. According to the beginner's guide, he should be training and increasing his stats before questing. That will be very useful to him later on. With increased stats, his power level will grow exponentially as he levels up. He sees people coming out of the basics training school. They want to skip the stat training, since it's boring. They think it's a waste of time, and Lee Young doesn't understand that. The person then tries to explain to him why he needs to level up, but the explanation is useless to Lee Yun, since he is only telling the obvious. He tells him that the stat training is not for normal humans. You have to train incredibly long and hard by hitting the scarecrow for 10 hours. By doing that, you will only increase 1 stat point of strength. The people leaving the basic training school think that no human being will be able to grind this hard. Lee Young wants to bet them that he will be able to do it. They think that he is overreacting. He doesn't want to train 10 hours but 20 hours a day, and that for 20 days long. This is 400 hours of hitting a scarecrow. The man he met thinks he's funny, but likes his determination, so he rewards him with some bread. He thinks that grinding will be easy for him, since he will not have to think about the problems in the real world he's facing, like being sad, or poor, or being in debt. This is a good way for him to clear his mind. People think he is crazy for hitting a scarecrow this long. The grinding goes slower than he expected, but he does not want to give up since he wants to win his bet. He sees someone with food, and he tries to talk with him. The person notices that he is hungry, so he offers him some food. And this is exactly what he had hoped for. It's obvious that the person knows more about the game than Lee Young. As he is enjoying his food, he is ready to start grinding again. He never had money to eat food like this. But the man wants to ask him something. He asks him what he thinks about sculpting. But Lee Young has absolutely no idea what he is talking about. But if it's something that could make him money, he's more than interested to learn about it.